Frosty cold beverage. Very important. Hydration is very important. It's the key to existence. How's everybody doing? It is 6:38. We are live. Got some other guys things going on here. Took the puppies out for a run. It was awesome. Everybody they're so happy to see everybody that it puts everybody immediately in a good mood. The dogs are just wagging their tails. Actually, they're wagging their whole bodies, and then people just love it that they're so excited to see them. And that's a good thing. We need more of that in our world. Today I want to talk about the Metro. I put the video up, part 1 of the Metro, just basically what's here, what really do we have to work with, and we need to get it working. And luckily, if you guys have seen the video, the compression test worked out fine. It was nice and even. I was very, very happy about that. Not that it doesn't have other issues, but all of these kinds of project cars do. For right now, it's running, and I just need to fix the first thing I need to fix is the rubbing front cover, which is going to be an easy fix. I got to put the other ground wire on it, so that's permanent, so I don't have to use the jumper cables. But it's I like the fact that it starts right up and the battery's strong and the starter's all working. All that seems to be working. The fuel pump obviously is working. A couple of things I want to do. I just want to verify that the we want to make sure that the water pump is working, and that I want to check the oil. Want to make sure that the fans come on and all that. Just things that you kind of take for granted on a newer car, but you can't take that for granted on an older car, because if you drive that thing around and the water pump's not circulating or the fan doesn't turn on, obviously it's going to overheat, particularly if you don't have a working dashboard, which I'm not 100% convinced that this thing has a working dashboard. But but the poll for today is going to be okay, who wants to see a 12-hour, it's actually going to be 12 one-hour sessions, but a 12-hour mini marathon live feed this Saturday starting at 8 a.m. So we've talked about doing a marathon, and I'm still going to. I want to do that with Chad, but he and I have not been able to get together to do the thing that I want to do, which will be really fun. But I have a list of things to talk about for each one of the deals, and so I put together, 12 of these subject matters that we can talk about. We're not just going to talk about car stuff. We're going to talk about Bigfoot and UFOs and all kinds of fun stuff. And so, after 12 hours, we should all be getting a little punchy. I want to see who's going to hang with me the whole time. That will be cool. So let me know in the subject matter. It won't be 12 hours straight, because I don't want to do that. It will be 12 hours straight, but it's going to be a 1-hour session and then like a 5-minute break, and then a 1-hour session and like a 5-minute break. Just time for us to get food and do all the stuff that we need to do in between each one of the hours. But it will be successive ones all in a row, starting in the morning on Saturday and going all the way till the evening on Saturday. It'll give us, think about it as training. So it will give us training for when we do the 24-hour, and in the 24-hour, we're going to do some fun stuff. We're actually going to do some racing, which will be very, very cool. And I want Chad to be there because he's a really good race announcer, and he's just fun to be there. And I'm there has to be some drinking involved if Chad's going to be there with me. Or should I say there has to be some, frosty cold beverages. So that will be awesome. I saw some 100% there. So the people that are not 100%, hey, don't show up, man. You're going to be like that. That's how you are. You don't like puppies. I mean, what kind of person doesn't like puppies? It's just wrong. On the Metro, getting back to the Metro subject, the XFI is cool. I have not owned an XFI, so I think that's awesome. I did do a bunch of stuff with my Sprint Turbo to get better fuel mileage. I think that if I got the XFI running properly, that it would be, even better fuel mileage. I'm excited about running the AMR supercharger just because it's weird and unique. it would be lots better with a turbo. It would get better fuel mileage with a turbo. It would make more power with a turbo. All the things about it would be better with a turbo. Even given the little turbo that's on the Sprint, it probably would still be as responsive as the blower is. I don't remember the thing I don't remember it being laggy. And if you had more compression than the stock Sprint motor has anyway, making more NA power, then it would be that much better. But the AMR supercharger would be cool if we get that working, and the guys from Holley send me out the deal and we can tune it. There's no reason that we couldn't do both. And this will give me a chance to run the chili bomb, which I've wanted to do for a long time. Every time I go, not every time, but a lot of times when I go down to West Tech and I have to go to my storage, I'm looking through stuff. I try to label all the boxes because there's so much down there that I just write on them, hey, chili bomb or whatever. Sometimes I don't. I'll open up a box and go, oh, yeah, I remember this. I really should mark that. And then I don't have a Sharpie with me, and then I don't mark it, and then it ends up getting forgotten. But I did find the chili bomb the last time I was down there, and I'm like, I definitely have to run this. This has to be a thing. And so it looks like from the engine compartment shots that there's plenty of room there. Where there's lots of room, I don't know that I could get a belt to this thing unless I do a pulley off of a standoff pulley off of the water pump or the crank or something like that. So we'll see what happens with that. There might be a way to drive it off of the crank and come to the other side. I'd like to have it come to the exhaust side. Not that I want to run it near the exhaust, but there's just a lot of space there. There's no AC on this Metro. So it only has on the other side, on the tight side, on the firewall side, it has the alternator and the water pump. And so on the radiator side, essentially on the front side, there's just nothing there. The exhaust manifold's there, but up on the front of the motor where the drive would be, there's plenty of room. And that would give you room, because if you're going to run the chili bomb, you have to be able to route that. And it's long enough to where it's just not going to go directly across to the throttle body. So you'd have to, we'll have to configure that a little bit. So it'll have some tubing going on, but at any rate, we'll just rig up a water pump. So it'd be really easy to do on the engine dyno or on the chassis dyno, because we just route water to it. I'll just turn the hose on, man. Let it drain while we're making pulls. It'd be awesome. As a tangent here, I found out today, and this same person has made this comment a couple of times now, that for some reason, I don't know if you guys realize this. This is actually something that we could discuss on the live feed, but there seems to be some sort of vortex or negative singularity that happens somewhere in between the engine dyno and the chassis dyno, and blocks out into the real world too. Because for some reason, things that happen in the engine dyno don't happen anywhere else that's specific to that room. So the laws of physics as they apply there don't apply somewhere else. So if you do a cylinder head test or a camshaft test or a header test or something, that doesn't happen anywhere else. It only happens right there. It doesn't. So turbos don't make boosts and blowers don't make boosts. And somehow the things only can happen in there, but don't happen anywhere else. So my only conclusion as a big fan of like the Skinwalker Ranch stuff is that there has to be a negative singularity. There has to be a wormhole, a traversable wormhole or something that takes us to like some other dimension where the laws of physics that as we know it don't happen. They cease to exist. And that might be, what I was thinking of, and this will be a better discussion on the marathon deal. Maybe that's where the flat earthers are. Maybe on that side of that thing that we have a different, there's a different earth. And different laws of physics because it's flat. So we don't have the same kinds of things. But on the so back to the Metro, I was told because I posted a few things on the Metro groups because I'm a I'm a Chevy Sprint Turbo guy and a Metro guy. So I was just asking them about some of the things, and they're like, yeah, the like on the front cover that's rubbing. Well, it could be that the bolts are loose. Obviously, that's pretty standard fare. And in looking at the video, I didn't look at this while I was looking at it, but going back and reviewing the video, I saw that a bolt is missing. I don't think the bolt's missing enough to not draw the front cover in. but I'm going to look at that again. What I'm going to do is probably just section out the area where it's hitting, and so it won't be hitting anymore. Some guys take them off, and you can certainly do that. I want to have the thing on there at least and bolt on. Like, I don't mind cutting the top off or whatever, but we want to have the section on there because I think that that's where the timing marks are for the, if you're timing it, which I haven't looked at either. I need to. I don't know if I have a timing light here. I might have to buy one. So I need to get a timing light. So just so I can make sure, judging by the way the thing runs and revs up and stuff, it seems like the timing is pretty good, but that's just a guess. So I'd like to see where the timing is and put it in its proper spot. So I want to make sure that that's there, and I don't want to cut away that section of it. So I don't mind cutting away a part of it, and that should solve that rubbing problem. And then we could really start looking into some of the things. Right now, it doesn't go into fifth gear. Or at least I haven't been able to get it into fifth gear yet. And I was told that when the clutch is going out and the release is all the way at the top, that tends to make fifth gear worse. I wouldn't think that would be a problem once the motor is off and stuff, and that you could still make that happen. But I'm going to look and see if it's, like I talked about before, if it's a cable, if it's stretched or, routed funny or worn out, if there's bushings or something that are worn out, I can take a look at that. I hope that that's the case, and that there's not, and that fifth gear somehow isn't just missing in the transmission, that it's broke or worn off or something. We don't want that to happen. Mostly I don't want that to happen. Like, it wouldn't be the end of the world for me if fifth gear wasn't there, if like the gear wasn't there. But if there wasn't some other calamity associated with that, like the gears all chunked up and then it would take out the rest of the transmission, or if it was taken off and now it doesn't have a space and everything, or it allows everything to move over or whatever, that we don't want any of that. But I wouldn't mind if I had to drive in fourth gear. For what I'm doing, it probably would be fine. And in fact, I want to put a different transmission in it anyway. I want to put the taller gear transmission in it, only so that I have that transmission and that final drive for the Metro that I want to run at Bonneville, because it needs that gearing. In my opinion, it needs that gearing. It doesn't need lots of RPM. I like to do it with less RPM and more gearing. And then that way, having more gearing also allows us to run a realistic tire size. You don't have to run a gigantic tire size to get more gearing out of it, basically, which raises the car up, hurts the aero signature, all of that stuff. You want the thing down on the ground, down low, with all kinds of gearing. That way you don't have to run a lot of RPM. A little 2-valve motor is not a good candidate. Like a 4-valve motor, if you want to run 8,000 or 9,000, wherever you want to go with it. Even on the Honda motor, when I was running it, 8,500 or so was kind of where we wanted to be. A lot of the guys wanted to run lots of RPM, but ours just went out and ran and did what it was supposed to with lots of gearing. You just have to make sure they have enough power. And I think that we can do that in that RPM range. I think that 6,500 for that motor is kind of a realistic RPM range, and it will make enough power with that kind of gearing at 6,500 to go the speeds that we would need to make it go. Because we're not trying to go 200 in it. We're trying to go like $1.50, like maybe 150 or something like that. So I'm excited about that, but I wouldn't mind putting that transmission in. I've been told, and I could see why, that on a Metro, particularly an XFI, that's too much gearing, because it wasn't used in that application. Oddly enough, it was used in another application. That's too much gearing, that motor actually doesn't want to pull that gearing on the freeway and run at 70 miles an hour, because the RPM is too low and the torque is too low. And I can see how that could happen. That did happen when I had my Mustang, and we had the motor in it, which was slightly lower than stock compression, trick flow, high port heads, the 224, 232 camshaft, and a Vortex supercharger on it. And we had to put 241 rear gears in it and a 0.68 overdrive fifth gear. It did not want to run in fifth gear on the freeway unless you were going about 90. So you can overgear them for the cruise application. And particularly if you don't have the power or the drivability, which my car didn't have, it didn't want to run at, 1,500 RPM at like half throttle going down the freeway. It was not too happy. And the Metro would kind of be the same way. But I do want that gearing so that we can do some runs on the chassis dyno with eventually this thing would be used kind of as a test mule. It's be used as a dyno thing so that I could put my sprint motor in, and then we could run it and make power with that, with the turbo combination, because the turbo combination is what I would run at Bonneville to try to make some good power. So let's see what you guys got going on. Where is our poll at? Who wants to see a 12 1 hour mini marathon live feed this Saturday starting at 8 a.m.? 90% are saying yes. That's good. You 10%ers. Wow. 12 auras. Yes, the Panda Express. So how did you guys like that? I like that name, especially after seeing the signage that was on the side of the extra door that he provided, because that's the door that was on it when it was doing its delivery stint. They put the lettering on it. So I thought that's perfect. Express. It's an X delivery car and pressure, and all of that just worked out. It just flowed. For real, for 12 hours, for reals. Richard, did you get your stuff sorted out with PayPal? I did. So all that's working out good. Did you test the clutch? Yeah, this clutch is not good. It doesn't engage until the very, very top. Because I drove this car. Is the top ring gap smaller than the second ring gap? I make them the same. Would you ever do a how-to video? You mean how to install how to swap an LS camshaft, for instance, or how to measure pushrod length? I've done a few of those. What specifically did you want to do as a how-to? Both my belts came off of my 74 Trans Am the other day. She was running 250 degrees by the time I got home. Didn't hurt anything. All right. She got warmed up with the water pump not running. Post the poll? I did. Is there a specific subject or answering now? No way. Well, in the live feed, excuse me, if you have questions, you can ask whatever questions you want. Whatever subject matter, anything that you want. Anything goes. So if you have something that you want to change the subject, we've gone down other rabbit holes, which is fine. I can watch you and some no prep drag racing. Yep. Put an LS in the Metro. Yeah, we don't want to do that. Although we have something that we might do for that, but let's see. Wait, I scrolled ahead too far. Okay, only if I can pop in and out throughout the day. Yeah, you can be here as often as you want or as little as you want, whatever you're doing. I'll be here, and so you guys come in and say hi, whatever you want to do. You guys can send me pizza. It's pizza money. You ever work so much you got money for your build, but you can't build it because you have nothing but time to do. Is all the time you have is to work, right? Working 16 hours while tuning in from time to time. That's good. Having money or no time and no money yet. Excuse me. But the thing is, which of those would you rather have, though? Would you rather have the money, or would you rather have the time? Getaway, what's going on? I'm running the dehydrated Silverado. How's your build going, Shadow? Every time I pop in, I'm ranching. I have a CNC mill if you need something whipped up. Oh, for the Panda Express? Yeah, I'm hoping that the way that I like to do it is simple. So I'm hoping that just an L plate, like I did on the LS when I did the flow testing on it, I'm hoping that will be enough to just drive it, because I'm not gonna be driving it around too much. I might take it around the block or whatever. I'm waiting on a friend to get a coworker's basket case Camaro out of his shop so I can get the truck out there. The engine is ready to go in. I'd be able to find AC brackets for the AMR. Maybe, although the mounting for it is kind of weird. The way that I mounted it before is I used the 4 holes that mount like this. You can kind of see. I use these 4 holes that are on the either the inlet or the discharge side. It has mounting brackets on it, there you can kind of see, but the other ones are all the way on the other side. So you have to have I think this thing had some kind of C-shaped mount for it. Deciding if 2 1/4-inch ports will be enough to keep my boost below 6 psi, or how I want to blow it off. Tacking on the cooler intercooler. Quarter-inch ports. You think that it's going to lower that? You think there is this fear? Negative matter, electric universe, magnetic field circuitry. Birds aren't real either. Wow, okay. We're going to have fun on the 12-hour, right? Internal combustion engines run in a hard vacuum in different dimensions. I didn't know that a dyno was a particle collider. You got to rev it up really high, though. Eric T, what's going on? Saw a big block Chevy in a boat. It was twin turbo from the 70s. Was it a Gale Banks deal? Flat bottom style that had radiator caps between the turbo outlet and the blow through carburetors. Owner says this is wastegates. So if they're like, 13, 14, 15 pounds or whatever, which might be what the thing is. I just don't know if they open up how much bleed by that has, though. A blow off valve. Yep. A lot of cup cars only have second and fourth gear. The basket case Camaro has wired nuts in certain areas and clamps for the plug wires, eventually cutting the insulation and cause a short. Oh, that's not good. Can't imagine that would produce power past 5,500 RPM stock. Is that accurate? Are you talking about the? Are you talking about the Metro? Yeah, it doesn't. It's not a rever. You can put the other camshaft in it. The XFI camshaft is specific to that XFI, and it's designed to make less power and to make more low speed power and to get better fuel mileage. Putting the other non XFI cam in is a cam upgrade. So we might try that and see if we're talking about power. Then we could have like reground ones done too. My old Mazda Protege hatch would not go over 2001 and fifth full pedal at like 3,700 RPM. Just wouldn't push over it. You had a Mazda Protege that went 200 miles an hour at 3,700 RPM. That doesn't seem right. I saw an AC Cobra bodied Corvette on Rain Man Ray's channel, and the wiring was not done right. Uh-oh. Does anyone else constantly check the tracking when they order parts? I don't do that at all, ever. In fact, I had the guys from Stainless Headers he contacted me and said, hey, we're finally getting the zoomies out for the LS that I want to run. And he said, I'll send you a tracking number. I said, dude, that's not necessary. If you just told me that you're sending it out, then you're sending it out. I said, it's not, I'm not going to, I don't ever remember going on to look at anything to track it and make sure that it's going to arrive here like on this in this 10-minute period or whatever. I don't care about that. If a guy tells me it went out, it went out. That's it. I have way too many other things to do. Would the Sidekick trans work, and would gear ratios be any different? I've gone down the rabbit hole on the different transmissions for all of these, and there's one that's I need to look and see. It's a single overhead cam. I don't know, Swift or something that has the final drive that I want. Richard, I sold my Pontiac G8 and bought an 04 Corvette. Cool. Can you run through the specs of the highlights on the Metro? You've never seen one in Australia. It would be a Metro or a Firefly or a Suzuki Swift. It's a little hatchback like a Honda, like a Civic hatch, or I mean, there are lots of little hatches like the Toyota Tercel. It would be kind of like that. It is a 1 liter 3-cylinder motor, and the XFI is a really high fuel mileage one. So it's still a 1 liter 3-cylinder, but it's like it has a 2-piston ring or a 2-ring piston on it. Specific camshaft. I don't know if they did anything to they obviously did stuff to the tuning on it. It's very, very light. Very, very light. And the XF, excuse me, man, the XFI oddly enough, doesn't have, like I said, doesn't have the tallest gearing. Is there anyone in southern Indiana, northern Kentucky you would suggest for dyno tuning? For Kentucky, I would suggest James Short, but I don't know where that northern Kentucky is. He's in like, well, he works at Brian Tooley Racing, which is in Bardstown. Oh, an LS4 for the Metro. (2000 Sonoma 4.3 liter 5-speed 2-wheel drive regular cab step. Have an LQ9 I'm collecting parts for. This turbo is supposed to be sloppy and fun, but then the intercooler challenge. See, that's what happens. You come here and somebody mentions something, and then all of a sudden you're going off on a tangent, right? Straight 24-hour stream or nothing. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to just be on for 24 hours straight. It doesn't help my channel nearly as much as doing 24 1-hour ones do, and that would be a better way to do it. LU3 4.3 liter was from 2003 to 13 or 14. The if I used actual injectors versus the poppets on the older 4.3s. Make sure you make your bracket adjustable so you can get tension on the belt. Yeah, I was thinking about doing a spring-loaded one, but we could do a fixed one too. Richard, who makes and sells carb bonnets? I need one for my 3.9. If you do a search for carb bonnets, quite a few of them will come up. The one that we always use is Kevin's from CSU. Still want to see you test a Big Dog's ported intake for small block Fords. I do want to test one of those too. I think that would be great. I'd like to see. I want that to work. I'd love to work with those guys. So if those guys are out there and listening, I would love to test one of their ported Cobra upper and lowers, I guess. And Mark Sanchez and I are going to be running a series of tests on these things on the engine dyno. So it would be a good opportunity to do that. And I would like to see a ported version. I would like to see if a ported version does something more than what we've seen in the past. Scrolling. Metro's a nice little hot rod. Yeah, they're not fast, especially the XFI. I mean, it's probably like I don't know, what is that, a 12 or 15 second 0 to 60 car or something. It's not very, it's lightweight, but it's not very sporty. So it's not something that you would have to have fun, but it's really light and it gets really good mileage. And so it's a different kind of thing. But we want to see if it, because this turbo or this blower, we know can support 150 horsepower. and it's used on VW motors all the time. So something in the 100 horsepower range should be in the sweet spot for this blower. So I'm hoping for good things. Thinking of doing a stroker motor. Do you know if a 4-inch stroke crank will clear the 4th gen F-body oil pan and windage tray? The windage tray, you almost always have to either dent or we put washers on them. But when you do that, you have to make sure that you have to readjust your pickup, because the pickup mounts to one of those bolts that holds the pan on, or holds the windage tray on. So if you space that, you're pushing the oil pump pickup toward the pan. I mean, yeah, toward the oil pan. And so it can be too close. So you need to check that and adjust it if you're doing all that. But we do it two ways. One is to beat the heck out of the windage tray, that's never fun. Or we just stack washers on top of the because you have the inner bolts or whatever, and then you slide the windage tray on. If you put washers on top of that, usually the 4-inch stuff will clear that. Do you use Amsoil Mobile One? I don't. Most of my stuff is junkyard stuff, so I use whatever's on sale. The guy from Amsoil actually reached out to me at LS Fest and asked me if I wanted to, I don't know, somehow get involved in that or whatever. I just don't think I'm gonna be an oil salesman. It's like being a kid all over again. Instead of cartoons, we wake up with cereal and Richard. That's right. Saturday morning cartoons. I love projects like that, though. Good part is the marine intake, which has fuel rails and fits the L35 like the LU2. I've seen on the 4.3, I've seen the marine manifolds for sale. They're not cheap. The ones I've seen online. 15-hour marathon, going to be LS4 swap in the Metro. Yeah, I won't be working on a car. It'll just be me. Looking forward to parts of the 12-hour. Richard gets Summit next day, so nothing to track. Yeah, that's not happening either. Eric did an oil test a few months ago and reduced the amount that he had gained. I don't understand. I've done lots of oil tests, but you have to usually change viscosity to change it, or oil temperature to change the power output. Suzuki Swift 1300. Yeah, the Suzuki Swift is the GTI version, I think, was a pretty cool little hot hatch. But that was a 1.3 liter 4-cylinder and was a 4-valve motor. The one that I'm talking about is not any of that. It's much smaller. It's a 2-valve. It's much more pedestrian. This one, in fact, at least in the Sprint Turbo, it was port injected and turbocharged and intercooled. On this one, it is throttle body injected with a single throttle body, like an electronic carburetor, basically, on top of a 3-branch manifold. A few months ago, I told you about the Metro I got in trade for doing transmission work. That's a good deal. Are you driving it around? Does it work? Sidekick. So we acquired this buggy L410 Suzuki Kawasaki Ninja engine and trans, adapted to Suzuki trans and transfer case. Oh, cool. That seems like a lot of stuff. 12 hours is a long haul. Do you still hold the 1 liter speed record? No, the guys that I'm going out to Bonneville with, the Hudson boys, hold 30 or 40 of these records. I don't. They haven't broken the ones that I set, I don't think, at the max in mile, but they hold just about everything else. They're the guys. Those guys are nuts. Those are the guys that put the 1 liter bike engines in their Metros. Which, when you're starting out with a motor like this that makes 49 horsepower, or you can start out with a 1 liter bike engine that makes like 175 or 180. It's a big difference. I've seen videos of someone using radar caps and charge pipes to regulate manifold pressure. Yeah, on a turbo thing, that's going to be weird because if you're regulating that side of it, the turbo is just going to spin faster, and it overspeeds it. It's just not a great way to go. We've done it by putting holes in the exhaust and putting plugs in them. We welded on a bunch of like O2 sensor bungs and did it that way. But again, it's not ideal. Can the 4200 Vortec be a GM2J? How far can you push the thing? I've not seen anybody go anywhere near where the 2J block will go. I don't know about the rest of the stock 2J stuff. I haven't seen a lot of stock crank, stock rod, stock piston, just rim gap 2J stuff out there. I don't know how far they go with that, but the blocks can go a long way. And then now they have these billet blocks, which can go all the way. Robot Cantina is getting 70 miles per gallon in a Honda with a 717cc diesel. The Reaper motor. Strange they got better MPG with the AMR supercharger. Yeah, that's got to be a tuning thing because it wouldn't really do that. I mean, you driving the supercharger would always be load that should reduce fuel mileage, I would think. Tangents make it fun and interesting. Plus, I can keep steaks and cold beverages on hand. Hot plates on the turbo. There you go. Picnic. Have you ever tested the first TPI setup? I have not. I would like to, though. I really prefer short 10 to 15 minute videos. Those are the ones that are basically on dyno testing and stuff. These are live feeds. These are completely different things. And we do this. I do this to engage with the viewers, which those short videos, that's just me talking about some sort of result and then people leaving comments. This is a whole different thing. It's not one or the other. I'm doing both of those, obviously. Funner driving slow cars fast and fast cars slow. I'd like to put an AMR on an 84 1100 Kawasaki. Like I said, it's it'll support 150 horsepower. "24-hour fitness and Richard Holder marathon on street." So you can work out. David, what's going on? I emailed you today about the valve springs. You got back to me super quick. Appreciate the time. Hey, I'm happy to help, man. For the guys that are interested in cams, obviously I have cams. I have the low buck truck and then the truck plus, and I have a couple of the used ones still. But what David's referring to is that for like if you get that low buck truck and you're looking for springs right now, Brian Tooley has springs for $79, and I don't know how you can get a better deal for that. That's for the fight. What are you doing? Well, come up here. Come here. Come here and say hello. You want to get my arm? Did you want to take me somewhere? Huh? What are you doing? What are you doing? I know, mommy just left, huh? What are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do? Who's that? I know. It's so exciting, huh? So exciting, huh? Where's your brother at? Okay, there he is. Come here. Hello. Where's your brother? What's he doing? Go get him. That's a camshaft. You can't have that. I know. Durl Lube at a country fair. I always like the guys that were doing the chop guys. The guy that there was a guy that used to go to the Orange County Fair that was a chop guy, and he was selling either knives or some kind of cutting thing. And this guy, like, I would watch his thing. It's the same thing every time. But we would go there and I would watch it for 2 or 3 times. Every time we walked by, I'd stop and I'd watch it because this guy was an entertainer and he sold a lot of them. And I would buy one just because he did such a good job. I had a Vortec 350 Marine EFI intake setup I've been trying to sell with no takers. I would think that the 4.3 liter probably is more popular. 3-cylinder Suzuki G motor. There's a couple of Marine 4.3 intakes and 2 barrels for sale. Yeah, even the 2-barrel ones are not cheap, right? Someone needs to get a first-gen Ford Festiva. I like those as well. I like the Fiestas and the Festivas. Race your Metro Battle of the Economy Hot Rods. Monday, need help to sell off the TBI 350 block heads and intake. Richard's still been waiting on a Chevy Gen 2 LT1 V8 full build. Quite a few of us have been waiting on. Yeah, I don't have any builds, any dedicated builds for those. We will be doing like heads, cam, and intake and boost, that kind of stuff. Although what I want to do is have it make less power by making the 350 into a 302. And that people would like that, but for the wrong reasons. Can an LS survive at 600 horsepower for a daily? Yeah. How are you making the 600 horsepower would be the question. If you're doing it with a turbo, it would survive endlessly. If you're trying to make 600 horsepower with a 4.8 and running it at 8,000 RPM, which you would need to do to make 600 horsepower with a 4.8, and it'd be real high compression and a big cam and lots of RPM, the reliability would be more suspect. Richard, I have a D-stroke 350 to a 327. So you've made a 327 then, right? 12.5 to 1, but I'm running water mess system. How much would I blow up my motor if I put a YN 144 blower on it? I don't know. I don't know what your cam timing is. Do you have iron heads on it? I don't know how much power is it making now. If you were going to do that, I think I would suggest you put a get an E85 carburetor for it. You would really like that. Timmy's down the well again. I had collies. Lisa and I did. I actually had collies with my previous girlfriend before I met Lisa, but I had collies when we met, and that was our running joke, is because, you know, hey, Lassie, Timmy's trapped in the well. Because when you have collies, you know. Mine's on his back and the ottoman of lazy boy. Yeah, they love, especially Bruno loves when Lisa comes home, because she rolled her ankle, so she has to come home and sits on the couch and she has to ice her ankle. But especially him, he jumps up and just has to like get right in between, right in and lay with her, and he's a big snuggler. I'd like to see you do some testing on the 3.6 liter LFX. Don't know that. I've honestly never looked for one in the wrecking yard. I'm sure that I had to have seen them, though, because I think that they're fairly prevalent, right? Did they use them in a lot of stuff? The 400 small block had an extra big 2-barrel. Was it bigger than others? Was that Rochester bigger than others? Like the idea of a marathon. Been too long since I've been on here. Cords, what's going on? Am I not saying that right again? I seem to remember us going through this, or me going through this. And you know what causes a 454 truck exhaust manifold to crack? Yeah, heat cycling. If you've ever seen them going up a hill, lugging a trailer, they're glowing red hot, almost white, almost translucent. And then when they cool off and they heat cycle like that, and being held in by the bolts, especially to iron heads, I think that's what does it. I think they crack. Cast iron heat and cold cycles, inclusion into the metal. Yep. Wrong Cam Dog t-shirt. I do on some Wrong Cam shirts, because I want to offer cams and shirt. I want to offer cam and shirt packages. Cordis and Tortoise. I drive my Lancer Shelby a lot. Nice. I know I need to go pick up my Omni. I need to be omniscient. Who wants to see a 12-hour, 1-hour mini marathon live feed this Saturday? Giving away some Aerosmith tickets. Not really, because I don't know anybody at Aerosmith. Starting at 8 a.m. I'm still working on the truck. I have a battery charger on it all the time now. So anywhere I go, anytime I try to go anywhere, it's a whole setup. I need to go and go through the system and see which one is draining it, which one is the pain. That's something I would need to know. So I need to find out tomorrow or tonight. I need to find out which one it is, so we can talk about that on the live feed. Sure, with a 1 liter firing order. Are you selling dual valve springs? I don't have any springs at all, so I don't have single springs or dual springs. But you need dual springs for the Truck Plus cam, for the 219 cam. There's not a. You probably could run the 26 918 springs from Comp. I think we've run those. I think that those will go to 600, or Pack might have some 600 lift single springs. But depending on what motor you're running it on, somebody was asking me about the rec port heads. And I said, yeah, I think I probably would put a dual spring on that. Those are pretty big valves, unless you have actual LS3 valves in it, which could be lightweight. Hook up a disconnect for the battery. I know that's the thing that I was looking at when I went to buy the negative power cable for the Metro. I was looking at disconnects for that, because that would be better. I actually disconnected the battery overnight and then hooked it back up, and then it still wouldn't start. I think because I didn't drive it enough and charge it enough so that the battery was not all the way up to snuff, and I didn't have the battery charger then. So I think if I charged the battery and disconnected the battery, that it would start up. But when I do this, when I have the battery charger hooked up to it, and I know that the battery has enough juice, unless it's discharging the amount that the charger, it's only on 2 to 5 amps. So if it's doing 2 and it's just discharging 3, all I'm doing is slowly not keeping up. And so, but even if it's charged up, I still have to wiggle the cables. Otherwise, it doesn't start. My landlord just got an 06 3500 van, and it has a 6 liter. Yep, the big ones will have that. I'm running a 218 or 212 218 cam on FR 190 head, smog legal, K5 Blazer. No good reason for any of this. I just think engines are cool. That's all good. I'm eventually doing a pack 1204, maybe on the 862s. I know if they're still good. 5.7 has 243s with the BTR set. Are the Lowbuck springs good for a stock one? Yeah, you can run those on a stock cam if that's what you have. They're good for like 550 lift cams. So any of the factory 550 lift cams, it will work. It will work on the LM7 cam, which is only like a 500 lift cam. Those springs will work fine for all of that. You can, in fact, a lot of guys will do that when their springs on their trucks are going out. The cheap way to get it is to get, lots of guys sell these used LS3 and LS6 springs, and they're available in the aftermarket too. And from GM, they're pretty cheap. So you can put those springs as an upgrade to factory, because I don't know of anybody that would just rebuy factory, 706 springs. I don't know why you would do that. Just get the 550 lift springs. And like I said, Brian has the $79 spring, so that's a no-brainer. Kyle, I've suggested it before, but I'd love to see a twin GT45 on a 6 liter with any kind of cam, the ultimate low dollar combination. Do you want to see the GT45s turned all the way up? Is that what you want? Because that's going to be big bang territory. Get a bicycle cable and run it through the firewall and use it to wiggle the ring. Yeah, that's what somebody said. They just put a string in there and pull on it. GM only sells the LS7 lifters for the 4.8s and 6.2s now. Okay. I think I need to go to the wrecking yard and just go through all the LS motors that are there and just take all the factory lifters out and just resell those as performance seated lifters. Tested and cycled. Heat cycled and heat cycled and stress tested, right? A manual choke cable. Yep. Actually, I just want to fix whatever's going on with it. I want to fix it so that, because I also want to fix whatever's going on with it. I want to make it so that it runs right, so that because I have two tests I want to do. I want to put the M90 blower back on it so that we can show that, hey, look, it does the same thing everywhere, and that the M90 is capable of easily adding 100 more horsepower, 100 foot-pounds of torque, which would be cool because every motor needs that except 4L60E transmissions don't need that. But I think it would. This one has the good Corvette servo on it. So it should be fine for some dyno runs. I don't think that that's going to be a problem. So I want to do that, but also I want to do the fuel mileage test. I want to do the electric water pump, which is going to take a little bit of work because that electric water pump's not a truck water pump. So it's going to take a little bit of a rigmarole to get that done. But it's that and an electric fan setup from the guys at FlexLight. So shout out to the guys at FlexLight. Also, obviously, shout out to the guys at Brian Tooley Racing and Airflow Research for helping support the channel, which they're also going to help support the live feed, which is good. But the FlexLight guys sent me the electric fan upgrade when I was talking to them at the drumroll MPMC. So I want to combine the electric water pump and electric fan and see how much of a change that makes for me, just kind of steady state driving. Although we do have to go up over the grapevine and all that, but it should be good. Maybe a test light between the positive post and the terminals. Yeah, well, I'm going to go through that. That's the next series of tests. So just want to find out what circuit it is. Want to see a big bang for your 4200. The whole mirror barrel stuff looks super interesting. Big bang inline sixes are awesome. You've used twin S400s on a 6-liter in the big bang. Two GT45s can't have much worse response. Just thinking of a total budget build. Yeah, the two S475s that we ran on there were not done for any kind of response. They were not done in any way that I would recommend people use that combination on the street. They're only done so that we would have more than enough turbo to go where we needed to go before there would be some sort of strength issue in whatever the bottom end thing, whatever the weak part of that Gen 4 deal was. I think we could get to 1500 or so with two GT45s, but they would not be the ones that I would choose to get there for that kind of test. But they would be more responsive than twin S475s. So if you were wanting to do something and be out, I mean, I don't know why you'd be, if you have 1500 horsepower, it's not going to be very responsive. So twin GT45s are not going to be that responsive, even on a 6-liter. Twin GT3582s would be way more responsive, but they're not going to allow you to make 1500. So there's always going to be that kind of trade-off, I guess, unless you did compound versions of those or sequential ones. My Cutlass had a slow drain. It ended up being the light inside the center console was staying on. Yeah, I checked all of those. I checked the dome light, checked the glove compartment light. I'm suspecting the bigger things seem to be the radio, the body control module, the gauge cluster. Although this is an O2, the gauge cluster seemed to be, at least what people were telling me, less prevalent on that one than on the 03 and up, or 03 up, or 03 to 06 or 7 or something like that. This seemed to be more of that. At least that's the information I got from one gentleman. My drain was the fresh air selector. Shadow Ops, you're going to make up an RPO code for your for your own truck. That's good. That's what we wanted to make with the Car Farm guys, with Brian and Ben. We wanted to make up a plaque for my Omni GLHS, because they all have the Shelby plaque on them. They all have a CSX number on it. So we were going to make a plaque, machine one out that says CFX, because it's Car Farm Experimental, and it'd be serial number 001. CFX, Car Farm Experimental. putting a 96 Windstar AM/FM cassette into my 77 F-150 and somehow knocked out the power to my heater controls. Did you hit it from being back behind there or something? Does mine does have a clock. It has a clock on the radio. Making it a clock radio. It's high time there were some decent reproduction dash plaques for the cars. I know, or I don't, I didn't look closely at any of those on the real Shelbys. Are they, do they get worn out or something? I might paint it like the square body eventually, indigo blue or rival blue or burnt orange. Blue and orange complementary colors, you know. Got a couple more minutes. So it looks like 86%. Is 14 the usual amount of naysayers? So are we counting 86% as a yes? Is that it? Is that what we're doing here? So we'll end our poll at 86%. They have a tendency to walk off from a lot of cars over the years. Oh, really? Do guys do that at car shows and stuff? Where guys snatch them? Aren't they secured on somehow? Are they glued, or do they have a rivet or something that they're secured on there with? I've never taken any of those apart. Saw a video of the Detroit 453T make over 600 foot-pounds of torque from 212 cubic inches. So it was a lot of boost, and is that a diesel engine? That's what I'm thinking? Stamp VIN plate replacement. I think you can have the factory stickers done to what you want. Whatever happened to the guy with the rotary head small block Chevy engine? I don't remember seeing that. Yeah, Kyle, that would be cheap if a guy had a 6-liter, like he got and honestly, you wouldn't even have to get rec port heads with that. I mean, if you did an LQ4 from the wrecking yard with 317 heads, and you put a camshaft in it and springs, and put 2 GT45s in it, you'd be fine. Oh, you can pull the Omni and Charger and Lancer ones off from the passenger side with the windows open. Sneaky. Working on the Turbo XC90. Hook a test light up between the negative post and the negative cable. Yeah, that's what we're. That's what I'm going to do to test what circuit it is. Just got back from doing an oil change, 426,000. I hope it's not the first one. Just got back from doing an oil change, 426,000 mile L92. It was ticking today, so I diesel flushed the oil. And 1540 Rotella with Lucas. Did it stop the lifter tick? I've seen guys do transmission fluid in there too. One more minute. Time to go. Time to go, yo. I think I'm gonna have to do something with my chair and stuff. I gotta get comfy. I gotta clean too. Man, I got a lot of stuff to do. But I got a Metro XFI and a running one. And it can make fun of my truck. Yeah, at least I can start, man. Not until I put that cable on there. I like how you have the the big battery cable. And I say big on the Metro, it's not very big. It looks like about the size of speaker wire. But you have the main one going down. This one goes down to the lug on the transmission. But they have another one going to the body. It's going to the radiator support, and it's put in with a Phillips like self-tapping screw. Like that can't be right. Sure did. I've done it a few times on this truck. It makes good YouTube content. Oh, that's cool. And you use diesel fuel to do that? Or diesel flush? I've seen guys clean them with transmission fluid too. They make a turbo Metro. The Firefly Twin in Canada was made with a turbo option. They made the Sprint turbo that was available here in the States, but not a Metro turbo. Seems like the right size motor for the blower. Yeah, this is good because it's, like I said, that this blower and it's not spun, I don't think, anywhere near the speed that I was running it when we were doing the flow testing on the LS. Spun much slower, more like 10 or 12,000 RPM rather than 17 or 18,000 RPM. Because it destroyed itself on the blower dyno in Sweden, the one that they got. But mine still seems to be in good shape. And if you run it at 10,000 RPM or something, and it flows the amount that it flows at 10,000 RPM, it's going to add boost to this 50 horsepower motor. It's not going to be a problem at all. I put it in and driven it with a couple quarts of diesel for a couple thousand miles. But not, is it diesel fuel that you have in there? In the crankcase? And on that note, it is time to go. But I will see you guys all tomorrow morning, and I have a new video that I'm working on, and hopefully I will have that up tomorrow.